Testing. Testing.
There's still a little bit of echo.
Testing.
Yeah,
Much
it's gone.
Much better.
All right. I think we have everything in order now.
Hershel, I'll be on mute for the first 10 minutes. I'm in another meeting, but I'm here.
Okay. All right, everybody. We are about to get underway. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to call this the Making of Order meeting of Friends of the African Union with the World Conference of Mayors Committee on the Permanent Forum on People of African Descent. All right. And so to that end, I'm going to ask Queen Mother Bernice Atchison, who's our presiding elder in this meeting, and is the co-convener of the FAU Institute, to bring us to order with some words. Queen Mother.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to each and every one of you. As we come together again to bow our head and give reverence, we're grateful that we were able to go through another Memorial Day, giving honor to those who have fought for our country and has kept us safe thus far by the grace of God. Now we bow our head in a few words of prayer and reverence. Father God, we thank you for standing by us, for always giving us aid and assistance. We realize without you, there were nothing that could be done. But we ask you to reach out to each and every one of us. Give us peace, understanding, wisdom, and knowledge, that we may continue to do your will as you see fit. Wrap your arms around us, pour out upon us grace, mercy, and give us understanding that we may continue in your will. And Father, we ask you to bless those that are trying to lead us to a most prosperous, a better prosperous America. Wrap your arms around us as we continue to try to integrate ourselves back into the motherland of Africa, as we continue to try and aid and assist humanity. For this is what you have predestined and preordained us, to reach out, to love ye one another, as I have also loved you. These and other blessings we ask in your Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Good morning,
And
Queen Mother.
Good morning, Queen Mother. Blessings on you.
And we're honored this morning before Ken Granderson comes and gives us the black facts of the day. We have a special guest, and we're honored to have the Ashanti Queen Mother, Dr. Dolores Blakely, here, who actually started us down in Friends of the African Union in the United Nations through New Future Foundation, because she was the only other person in 2013 at the historic conference called at the United Nations Mission of the African Union who had a plan. Friends of the African Union and New Future Foundation, and that's when I met her. And she had her book with her. and her book and her ask of President Obama. And she made it plain in the Reparations Commission and the round table in the Agenda 2063, which we were called to consult on. And she sat on the round table on reparations and she made it plain she had a life mission and that she was doing it for the children and she was doing it for the future and that she had been decades in the United Nations doing this work and that she was a disciple of not only our esteemed elders in leadership in the United States, but in Africa. And little did I know at that time, a Fulbright scholar of note who had published her dissertation and work. And so that in that, she had studied African socialism from the creator of African socialism. And I'm proud to say that today, as we go into the work today between the World Conference of Mayors and Friends of the African Union, that she's joined us with New Future Foundation.
So kind of nice
Queen
to
Mother.
just hang out in the dock too. You just got to make.
Queen Mother, floor is yours.
Thank you. In the spirit of my ancestors, I come before you. And Queen Mother has been in the U.S., which is very rare that I'm still in the U.S. I have been here to be engaged or involved with the World Conference of Mayors through the United Nations with New Future Foundation. And we had several sessions or conferences. One that we attended in March and prepared for that, the Commission on the Status of Women plus 30, Beijing plus 30 session that we did attend. And when women were in New York for about 3 weeks. Then we joined the second session of the United Nations, or in the United Nations headquarters, and that was the People of African Descent Permanent Forum, as well as the decade, renewing of the decade of people of African descent, High Commission session that they had at the UN in the month of April, both in the month of April. And then Queen Mother engaged in the youth of ECOSOC at the United Nations session and had some of our nation participated in that session at the United Nations. After that, Queen Mother felt that it was the time for her to go on a retreat. So for the month of May, Queen Mother has been on a retreat, fasting and praying for all of us. And in the midst of being on a retreat, the world has changed again. Queen Mother had to rally for President, he is president, he is Captain Ibrahim Traore, Burkina Faso, and Times Square with the young people. They seek for Queen Mother guidance and advice and to join them, and Queen Mother did so. Queen Mother also heard the leaving of Pope Francis. My goal was to leave from the decade of African people permanent of African descent, a resolution going on to the Vatican discussing reparation with Vatican. I had the honor in 2015 of giving my to Francis by his is the Cardinal Parkinson from Ghana. I sent my book, which I share with all of you today. It's called The Harlem Street Nun. And this book I dedicate to the godfather of Harlem, which have been a Roman Catholic nun for 10 years. It's called The Harlem Street Nun. Body of this work, and most of you, I would say, have seen the movie Sister Act. It comes out of my life, which I have sued Walt Disney for $1 billion and letting the world know you can't have me. I am not Whoopi, and Whoopi is not me. But she had played me as a Roman Catholic nun. But this book was dedicated to Bumpy Johnson, the godfather of Harlem. And I'm mentioning this is because it's been passed around to certain leaders in the Harlem community. And we just lost Mr. Rangel yesterday on Memorial Day. And he had the opportunity of having this book call me with laughter as he went through the Harlem Street Nun. And he is a Roman Catholic person of the faith of Catholicism. And he was taught by the nuns at St. Aloysius of my convent, the Harlem's, the Franciscan handmaids of the most pure-hearted Mary, Black nuns in Harlem, coming out of Georgia to New York. And so you could imagine with his laughter and calling me after he read the book, it was joy for my ears from my Congressman Charles B. Rangel. Also with Mr. Rangel, I had the honor of presenting a second book called Goree Island, Queen Mother Goree. I hope you could see it. The book that I'm holding in my hand at the moment. I hope you can see the book. The book is called Queen Mother Goree. Queen Mother Goree. I hope you can see the book. I'm trying to hold it so you could see it. It's on Amazon, Queen Mother Goree Island. This is the project that I've been working on, and Mr. Rangel support this project of telling Queen Mother on the phone, which he called me regular on the phone, and said to Queen Mother when I would leave something at his door for him to look at for Queen Mother. Mr. Rangel has been my U.S. Congressman for 46 years. So that's a long relationship with Mr. Rangel in Harlem, who left us yesterday. Now he's an ancestor. And what he said to Queen Mother, take the children, take the youth, particularly is what he said, to Africa. He's in agreement that Queen Mother take them to Africa through the shores of Goree Island for transformation, DNA, science, technology, food, and the culture, and understand that all of the resources the world is looking for lies in the belly of Mother Africa. So I share that book with you as well, of his support amongst us as of yesterday for 94 years. And I think within a few days, weeks, in the age of 95. Saying all of that, and a very moving experience for Queen Mother at this time, I will, if God allows me, to be at the UN tomorrow, Senior Citizens Conference will be going on tomorrow, and I'm hoping to be in attendance to bring them up to date of what Queen Mother has been going through with housing in Harlem, in particular, my home that I want to leave as a legacy to the young people, a place that they will be able to understand quality education, skill bank, of understanding how to take care of themselves by working for themselves or working for another, of being employed, but they must be trained with certain skills and abilities and quality education, what Queen Mother believed in for them, and also to become global citizens of the world. The world has changed, and Queen Mother has been at the United Nations going on 56 years. You usually, it's finished with the UN in retirement by 35 so years, but I'm still there as a humanitarian. And it's been a blessing that they still have Queen Mother. I still have my credentials at the United Nations as I'm speaking to you. And if everything goes well, I will be arriving at the UN tomorrow. I'm saying all of that to say to you, we are in the right position at the right time. The world is upside down, and only God will be able to straighten out the world. As I say to the peacekeepers officers at the United Nations, God runs the world and we run around in it. I've told the court the same thing. Only God runs the world and we run around in the world. I have put a book together, a word, what you would say prayers, or I call it reflections, during the pandemic. Had time to a book of reflections, and every morning between 3 and 6, the word came to Queen Mother and wrote it down. And now it is a book that I dedicated to the women of the world. And being engaged with the women in March of the Commission on the Status of Women was such a year of change for implementation. And Queen Mother just like to say, we are at the right place at the right time. This is my second time repeating it to you. I say to the young people as I went to Montpellier, France, and to Paris during the Olympics, I had never seen so many sneakers in all my life at the airport. And so it was the feeling of the energy of young people. And if you know anything what happened at the world, on the world stage in both places, in Montpellier, where we was engaged with our young people, etching out, negotiating before the General Assembly last year when all of his estates gathered in New York City. It was peace. They were able to change the resolution in the Peace Council of the Peace Security to include themselves. And what they want is world peace. They spoke it, and many of our young people did attend when the heads of state and their voices was heard. The future of the youth being present at the UN, his historical happened. So many young people was at the United Nations in September, and their voices was heard at the table. And I'm very proud that we as New Future Foundation has been a part of that. And so it is our duty at this time to enrapture and encapture our young people, give them guidance and advice they seeking from us, but let us pass the legacy on to them. And the time has come for us to do so. And as I said at 125th Street yesterday at my Royal Court in Harlem, the young people passed by, the community celebrated the life of Mr. Rangel. I was able to hear the beat of the streets of Harlem. And the last time he was with the group of us, the World Conference of Mayors at City College, which he has left his residency at the university for us, City College of the City University, which walking distance from where I
Ouch.
on now. And also Mr. Rangel, after he lost his wife, Amma Rangel, a year before, which was last year, and her going on the age of 90, and the International Peace Day, with Sasha organizing it in Harlem for us and other members of the World Conference of Mayors. And so we was able to see Mr. Rangel at his sad and low moments in his life of losing of his wife. And he was with us. And then to embrace his family yesterday at his home in Harlem, of going and giving them condolences and love from all of us. So Queen Mother, thank you for allowing me to speak to all of you at this time as we continue the work that we must do. As we said to a man by the name of Barack Obama, reparations now, reparations now in the spirit of Queen Mother Audley Moore. And as we said to Joe Biden, reparation, cut the check. Just cut the check. And as we
Cut the check.
cut the check.
Queen Mother.
Yes. Yes.
So under President Trump, I'm going to outline the work that we're doing to get the check cut.
Yes.
And so right now for everyone on Amazon, you should be seeing Pilgrimage to Goree Island, the Harlem Street Nun, and the Harlem Street Nun autobiography of Queen Mother Dr. Dolores Blakely, and Reflections of COVID-19 2020. And so the link is in the chat for the books.
And
okay.
I give you two, Chairman Daniels. You know that I am the forward of that book. It's Harriet Tubman. It is the first in line reading, and I got it in the United Nations. And Black folks, African people, sold out in the UN.
Yes, and so understanding where we are. Okay, one of the things that we're going to do right now is we're going to have Black Facts Matter, and then I'm going to explain to people about the movement that Joe Biden signed in December in the National Defense Authorization Act of fiscal year 2025. He assigned $28 million for holding the second U.S. Africa Leaders Summit, and that this call today is the organizing action around that summit through the Prosperous Coalition and us organizations, Friends of the African Union, the World Conference of Mayors Committee on the United Nations Permanent Forum of People of African Descent. Partners such as New Future Foundation, of course, are invited, but that we're reaching out to all organizations because on Juneteenth, we expect to start a new congressional membership organization, and I'm going to explain all of the plans and operations and take questions on that. But first, Ken Granderson, what Black Facts Matter today?
Hershel Daniels, I apologize. I'd like to take 60 seconds, if I can, to thank her for her work during 1999 and
Point of information, I had my hand up first.
I understand for both of you, and hold that after the Black Facts of the day, and then John, and then we will go to Andrew.
Thank you, John. I didn't see your hand. Thank you.
That's okay.
All right.
I'm the redheaded, the redheaded stepchild Indian and
It's all one
forgotten
fella.
sometimes. Just kidding.
Aho.
Okay, ready
All
to
right.
go?
We're ready to go.
BlackFacts.com presents the Black Fact of the Day for May 27th. Ernest Green graduates from Little Rock. He was the first African American to graduate from Little Rock Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1958. As a child, Green participated in church activities and was a member of the Boy Scouts of America, eventually earning the rank of Eagle Scout. He attended segregated Dunbar Junior High School and graduated after 9th grade, at which time he was assigned to Horace Mann High School, a new high school for African Americans. At the end of his junior year at Horace Mann, Green volunteered to attend the all-white Little Rock Central High School in the fall of 1957 and helped desegregate one of the nation's largest schools. Green became the only senior among the 9 African Americans who decided to integrate Central High that fall. In 1999, he and the other members of Little Rock 9 were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal by President Bill Clinton.
Okay, so then we have our Black Fact of the Day.
Learn Black History, teach Black History at blackfacts.com.
And actually, Miss Miles Davis' birthday yesterday, but the Little Rock 9 is also in our Black History in America series that you can get to from our videos link. So just wanted to share that linked Black Fact. Mr. Chairman?
All right. Thank you. So we're going to go to John Moss, who's featured in page 183 in the Black Folks Plan and his historic work in 2021 in Tulsa, when John brought one of the 5 civilized, as they called them, the 5 civilized tribes, he brought one who recognized their history with people of African descent. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but John, floor is yours for 2 minutes. John?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. You have 2 minutes on the floor. I've pointed out to people the historic work that you did in Tulsa and continue to do under the World Conference of Mayors as the chairman of the Indigenous Peoples Committee of the World Conference of Mayors. But you wanted the floor is yours.
Yes, I want to respectfully thank you very much. And hello, everybody. Honored to be here. Hope everyone had a respectful Memorial Day remembrance. I wanted to recognize, and I'll be sharing more later, on Honorable Queen Mother Blakely. When we were at the Tulsa event that is on the lands that my great-great-grandfathers signed the Treaty of 1835 that's still in effect, that allowed the 5, what are now called the civilized tribes, to come to have a place to prevent as much genocide as what happened. Sadly, part of that was the Trail of Tears. There's a Owen Park in Tulsa near where we were at for Juneteenth up there. And the Osage tribe, the Choctaw tribe, and the Cherokee tribe nation all touch corners at Owen Park. And that is where, at the event, I honored Honorable Queen Mother Blakely with the native shawl that you can see in the chat. I put some pictures of, and her and I and Mark P, we went up there and shared prayers and some tears, and it was very powerful. And I wanted to recognize that the Cherokee Nation also gave her a beautiful blanket
Yes.
out of respect for her and all the work she's been doing. And that I call her, some of you know, grandmother, because respectfully, without her telling me, I felt it in my spirit. And I said, "You're a grandmother, aren't you?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "What is your name?" And she said, "I'm Grease Wood Woman." And that was honored and given to her, which is the only way you can get a true Indian name, by the Hopi people out of respect for her and others. And I just wanted everybody to understand that out of that respect, all that she has done. And I do want to say that my mother, Colleen Janelle Martin Moss, was also highly recognized in the Catholic Church as a nun of the Third Order of De Montfort Sisters. So she's passed away, God bless her, but there's a strong bond between all the works that we do of the good things that Catholicism brought. We know it brought many bad things as well, but all the things in the world, we always have to find balance and work together. That's my updated message I just wanted to share. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to share the shawl. I took it to the African burial ground, and also it's been to Goree Island at the slave house. The role that the Native Americans has played in the lives of African descendants. I hope you can see the shawl that I'm showing.
Yes, we could see it. We can see it. Yes, we can. And I just want people to understand that one of the things that we're doing is translating history, and that the World Conference of Mayors agreed that we'll do the BIPOC History Alliance. And we're doing the BIPOC History Alliance on 400 years of history that was signed into law by the United States Congress with no dissensions from any Republican, Democrat, or Independent. And President Trump signed it into law January 8th, 2018. That we are the combination of that in that history from 1619 to 2019. Our immediate 2025 project is around the 1776 to 2026 250-year history project of America in every congressional district. But so we have 3 projects going on around this. We have internationally for the global African community, 400 years of history, from 1619 to 2019. You have in the United States, you have that history in the 400 Years African American History Commission Act. And then you have America 250. These are all coming together on June 19th at the White House, at the eclipse where normally you have the tree for the national tree and you have the Easter egg hunt. Well, we have confirmed with the White House and the National Park Service that we will be there for Juneteenth. For all those who want to participate, all those who want to be part of this movement, we're looking forward to you participating. Now, in that history that John was talking about, the treaties and the tribes, I just want you to understand that there in 1866, that at the end of the war, that there was the 1866 Reconstruction Treaties. Andrew, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so very much, Queen Mother. This is Andrew Williams Jr. I want to first honor you and thank you so much. You and I were just connected in 2019, but I brought aboard Corin Smith. He's very important to this. In the chat, I put a list of the people that attended the 1999 Middle Passage journey, and you had a very historic event during that time. But you were among those people, along with Zakia Bay and others that were there to celebrate our journey. And we have to give recognition to the Middle Passage as a place where our souls, all of our souls, are connected together. So, Queen Mother, I just wanted to thank you so much for all that you've done. And I'd like to ask if we could Corin Smith to introduce himself briefly and tell us a little bit about this Millennium Arch Project, and then I'll close the floor. Thank you so much. Corin Smith, are you there?
Oh, okay, yes, greetings. Greetings all. Greetings, Queen Mother. Greetings, everyone. It's very humbling to be here for Memorial Day tributes, especially recognizing that Memorial Day originated with the emancipated Africans or slaves paying tribute to those that had fallen in the Civil War. And as a generation looking back on the causes of the Civil War, it would stem from this original sin, the introduction of slavery into a colonial empire that the British felt would eclipse every empire preceding it, including the Catholic empires of the day, the Spanish. And to think that a little island on the periphery of the European powers could emerge to where we find ourselves today would have been somewhat improbable or impossible to imagine. How could such a small island like England or Britain, Great Britain, become one of the hallmark civilizations, and let alone give birth to an experimental democracy that could eclipse its own status in Europe. So that original sin narrative based on the freedom of empire at the price of the slave is still very relevant today, and the Middle Passage Monument at that time emerged out of the African American soul at the Million Man March, according to the visionary behind it in 1995. As an islander from the Virgin Islands, Wayne James was told by his ancestral spirits the first obligation to resolve the original sin narrative was to honor those that had been sacrificed at sea. And that ancestral spirit told him the place to demarcate that obligation with permission from the United Nations, Kofi Annan himself, the Naval Academy, the Congressional Black Caucus were all notified of this vision. And it was executed, and give thanks, Queen Mother was there as a witness with full acknowledgement of international law. It wasn't a piece of discarded, lost trash. It was deliberately placed with acknowledgement that there is an obligation to those who are sacrificed at sea. If we hadn't been there ourselves as a part of it, it could easily be forgotten that it happened. And all that Bermuda I was responsible for at the time as a host country outside the United States was take responsibility to ensure that there was a replica of the object that was put at the bottom of the ocean available to future generations. It's based at the Virgin Islands as a witness to what was lost at sea. The original monument, like the Titanic, will never be recovered, but the memory will be honored as a memorial on the grounds of a campus on the Virgin Islands. The first landing of sunlight on the American Republic is on the Virgin Islands. It's the easternmost periphery of the United States. It was already given acknowledgement during the millennium that the American millennium started in the Virgin Islands. So it's in that context that the Virgin Islands plays a very pivotal role in the arrival of this vision of a memorial for those at sea. The Middle Passage monument that was put in the Atlantic between Bermuda and New York, a replica is there in the Virgin Islands as a memorial for the future, you know? So I just give thanks. Like I said, it's been a 30-year journey. When this was done in 1997, or in terms of the origin of it, it would be unfathomable, I think, by any stretch of the imagination, to anticipate what has now taken place in the last 30 years in terms of the arrival of homeland security, the surveillance, capitalism, the total, let's say, destruction of, let's say, freedom of movement, freedom of thought, certain freedoms that we grew up with prior to the age of the internet will never be imaginable by children that have grown up tethered to electronic devices, and surveillance is second nature to them. So to a certain degree, our generation that preceded, let's say 9/11 in particular, is the last sort of witness to what it was like before the digital age. And not even thinking that there is a way for digital devices and a digital economy to totally invade your thinking from birth, you know, under constant surveillance. We've, as a millennial sort of, let's say, journey from the millennium 2000 to this time, this idea of freedom has taken on a whole new weight. So it's just to say that I think for this question that we, you know, dealing with the Civil War and the origins of the Civil War, the idea that freedom was worth dying for or killing for, in terms of the American Revolution, the Civil War, even today, people get killed for all kinds of different reasons. We haven't lost our appetite for killing or for our pursuit of freedom. All I would just say today, like I said, is very, very challenging, to say the least, to keep pace with America going through its different transitions in war and peace. I feel that the original sin narrative is a great leveler for America's leadership. And I just give thanks that the elders are here, the wisdom is here to step up to the plate and address it. I just feel that the Middle Passage experience defies any one jurisdiction controlling it, because no one is really responsible for what happens on international waters. There's no one body at the United Nations or in the Security Council.
Corin, I have to interrupt you to say that the Law of the Sea Treaty does cover that. Now,
Yes, yeah. Go ahead.
the Law of the Sea Treaty, okay, covers that, and that's one of the things that I'm bringing up to the 21st century. The stuff that when we met early in the 21st century is that we were successful in passing a whole series of laws that for the first time, people of African descent now have one organization for the global African community. And if we say statutory law and law of the 20th century, then we're talking about the Law of the Sea Treaty does cover the nation, the globe's oceans, the Law of the Sea Treaty, and I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, anything. Well, let's say that, yes, I hear you. I accept that there is legal and statutory, and there is naval, military operations on the high seas. Very few people live on the high seas. And as a fact of, like, as a code of as a lifestyle, unless you're really on the naval sort of, or shipping elite, or you're not really living in the water like those that were sacrificed there. Stay there, they don't leave. And building an apparatus or political or jurisdictional reality around the Atlantic theater of naval or maritime operations isn't everybody's focal point. Bermuda's somewhat unique because of its isolation in the Atlantic. We live in the Atlantic like we're on a boat, but that's us. Not even in the Caribbean, so to speak, with the islanders there. It's not in terms of their proximity to the Middle Passage or this sort of narrative. It's not an ordinary everyday preoccupation, And to a certain degree, I think this is why, even for Wayne James being given the vision, he chose to put it near Bermuda as a marker, not in the Caribbean, because it could easily have been put there. Why did he put it up? He would say he was told to do it by his ancestors. Put it near Bermuda because nobody cares.
But again, that history. I'm going to interrupt in terms of where we are in the 21st century. That we have to know our history of knowing from 711 AD until 1962 that the Red Sea African slave trade with 20 million, versus transatlantic slave trade with 14 million and over 600,000 to what became the United States of America. That's a history of the world, that has to be brought forth, no question, as part of that history. But we are in the time where as the Vice President of the United States said, that we are at a time of challenge from the world order that was established in 1945 through 1948 with the United States as the predominant world power since the fall of the USSR. We're in a challenge period, and we're in a unique period that for the first time that coming up for the Financing for Development conference in Spain, which the last one, Queen Mother Dr. Blakely attended at the invitation of the International Chamber of Commerce, and that FAU was proud to be among those who sponsored her. But when she got there, she was Queen Mother who got on the plenary stage, though she was brought by the International Chamber of Commerce to be in the business section. Queen Mother, being who she is in the United Nations, ended up on the floor, with the was it you were sitting right next to the African Union's secretary, the chairman of the commission at the time. I forgot, but that you got on the floor. But now this time in the upcoming meeting, we have a solution on the table that is put forth by Black folk in a BIPOC campaign for Black folk, Indigenous people, with Indigenous people being defined at the United Nations, and people of color and allies, and that we have a unique opportunity in the United States Compact for Democracy with a just economy that was put forth in the UN Permanent Forum on People of African Descent, and the Working Group of Experts on People of African Descent on October 7th, 2024, when they originally called for the submissions for the 35th session of the Working Group of Experts on People of African Descent. They rejected it. Matter of fact, they reset the whole program because we submitted a solution
Well,
not
let me
talking
just
about the problem.
let me just say that when this project emerged, the United Nations was not itself concerned about the slave trade in terms of the early 1990s. Just to make it,
Very much so.
it
Very
was
much
not
so.
even the way that the idea emerged. It didn't come from a political established view of the Congressional Black Caucus. It came from what might be considered a spiritual basis at source, and was litigated to the extent that he brought it forward. And if anything, it had the consequence of the United Nations deciding, irrespective of the original intent, to put a slave trade memorial on the United Nations grounds,
Yes.
which they did,
Yes.
with all full regalia, but they did not put anything on the sea at the
Hmm.
bottom.
That's
They
correct.
chose not to do that. It was diplomatically, politically, or by whatever treaties, they did not have the power so to do. It became volunteers spiritually to do it.
Started in Harlem, and the raw
It started in
Harlem.
spirit, and it
Hmm.
still lives in spirit because it's
And
beyond the competency of the political powers to do so.
Spirit,
It-
yes.
it's a very discerning. And listen, it's just a good energetic point. Why do memorials matter? Because people tend to forget from whence things come.
Mm.
That's why memorials matter, because you're
Mm.
quick to forget the dead.
Mm.
How do you resurrect the memories? How do you really live the
Mm.
tragedy of
Mm.
these realities? We repeat, repeat, even though we're told, no, do not kill, do not kill. We still kill,
Mm.
Yes.
and we find
Yes.
every kind of reason to kill.
And there will be more killing
Mm.
in the next year, because in terms of the treaty that for peace, okay, in terms of people of African descent, in terms of on the continent, that the Declaration of Principles that was put in place on April 25th and signed by the Secretary of State as witness to between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda, that we have a unique opportunity in 2 days from now.
Mm.
Now this is for Americans and our allies, that we have a unique opportunity 2 days from now when the Africa Bureau director will have a Zoom, and where he will announce publicly that there will be a second U.S. Africa Leaders Summit. Now, the unique opportunity that we have here in the United States as a people driven solution is to unite as a people driven solution to our nearest political infrastructure, which is we've chosen and we agreed in conference in Tuskegee as the mayors, the leaders of the elected leaders of the mayors, the townships and villages, to create in the global African community the civil infrastructure that will then, be part of this initiative that is being led currently by the United States government, okay, and as of 2 days from now, but that we, by this call today, we're organizing to get a jump on that, okay, to get a jump while they announce it, because the corporations of America are already meeting in next month in Angola, and that we have a unique opportunity in which to present our plank of action. And that plank of action, in terms of a process of economic empowerment to create a just economy based on statutory law and law that is accepted by treaty law, we in the United States have that authority because we are a treaty signature to the Treaty of Berlin of 1885. We're a signature authorized by our law in 1930, okay, because the Senate passed that in 1930. It may have been signed by the executive in 1885, but it wasn't passed by the U.S. Senate till 1930. And Friends of the African Union was the only American organization that's ever been established around that authority. And in 2013, when I met Queen Mother, Dr. Dolores Blakely, she was the only one at that conference who came with a plan for Barack Obama of the same scope that we did when we knew that he could issue quantitative easing authority. So now the president of the United States right now, Donald J. Trump, has authorized his Secretary of State, who has authorized the Africa Bureau Director to hold the second U.S. Africa Leaders Summit on a date to be determined this year. We previously, at the World Conference Mayors meeting in January, said that we would take the lead for the Mayor Summit, which is part of the authorization in the National Defense Authorization Act of fiscal year 2025, signed into law by Joe Biden and being executed under the administration of Donald J. Trump. And that section 7803 is the discussion today. I will hold any because we've been joined by the Secretary General of the World Conference of Mayors, the Director General, as well as the head and vice president of the World Conference of Mayors International. Mr. Secretary General, the floor is yours for any questions and comments.
First of all, good morning, good afternoon, and thank you, Chairman Hershel, for continuing to have these sessions. I thank Dr. Ming for being on. I just came from, this is Senior Citizens Month, so we just had hundreds of senior citizens gather from across our city for celebration. But let me just say, we did commit ourselves, and we are overjoyed to take a leadership role in organizing this meeting that is scheduled to take place next year. We're prepared to begin the planning for it. It's good to not wait until the last minute. So have you appointed a planning committee from this forum to spearhead planning for the conference, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I have. Okay. So from the World Conference of Mayors, as my authority as committee chair, okay, for the United Nations Permanent Forum of People of African Descent, and as Friends of the African Union, yes, it is. So we have from Florida, we have groups. We have from New York. We have from countries. That will go out from that today for invitations for them to join together under the Prosperous Coalition banner to do so.
Yeah, let's go ahead and start planning for this meeting, because I know you've been talking about it for the last year or so. And if resources have been allocated for it, and if it's public law, let's go ahead and test this law, and let's go ahead and start planning for this meeting. Have you all decided where the meeting is going to be held, or have you done any initial planning at all, or we're just still talking about it?
The meeting this year will be held in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Okay, like the first conference. The second meeting, in terms of next year for the mayors, has yet to be determined.
That's what I'm talking about for the mayors.
Yeah, so that yet has to be determined. I was looking toward either Los Angeles or New York having the infrastructure necessary for such a meeting.
Well, either of those places, obviously, it's easier to come back to Washington too. That's another point that you may want to keep in mind. Wherever we hold it, let's begin to plan for it. Yeah, if You say the money has been allocated? There's a
Yes,
public law authorizing it?
yeah, $14 million is available in
Yeah.
2026, and for this year, 28 million.
Now, you know, all of us have got to see this for real under the Trump administration. I can't
So,
wait to see if this is,
so, so,
if this
so
is,
this
this,
started, Mr.
huh?
Secretary General. This started on April 1st in terms of the administration appointing its special representative in the State House. Then in April 25th, they signed the Declaration of Principles. And then, okay, last Monday, just before the meeting with South Africa, they announced on the 29th that they have agreed to implement Section 7803 that contains this information.
Now that's who we need to be meeting with, this Trump official, because all of us watch the news and hear the news, and we know that things that were allocated before are being suspended and cut off, and so we need to get busy
Mr.
now.
Secretary General, 2 days from now, Mr. Secretary General, I'll be
Okay.
distributing after this the Zoom link with the appropriate Secretary of State official on the Zoom with him.
Okay. All right. Let's plan, Mr. Director General, and Mayor Jackson, you're on as well. Okay. So that's good. Next couple of days. So Thursday we're talking about, huh? Of this
Yes,
week.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Point
Yeah,
of
you know me, I
information.
believe it. Yeah. Did you
Okay.
hear him?
You guys look
Yeah,
great. Good. And your red tie.
No,
This is
sir.
it. I want to.
All right. So in this call, John. Okay. I see Dr. Crossland's hands up.
Okay, that's what I
Okay.
was saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
I understand. But I wanted to be clear with the World Conference of Mayors, the format that we're running to make sure it's in line
Someone needs to
with
mute.
the world. Yeah, I'll mute them.
Okay.
That's me. I probably need to mute Chairman.
All right. And no, go ahead. Vice President Jackson for International World Conference of Mayors is here.
Yeah, I'm on, but I have very little to add to what Mayor Ford has said. Chairman, I'm enjoying the conference. I'm at a place now where I cannot talk, discuss, but I'm listening. I'm in listening mode today, so thank y'all.
All right. Thank you. Dr. Crossland, you had your hand up for the past couple minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So I'm familiar with the Black Folks Plan. So is that what you're going to be talking to the president's office about?
What we have already talked to the president's office, the National Security Council, and unfortunately, those people are now back at the State Department because the president reorganized the National Security Council. So it turned out to be good for us because on April 25th, the declaration signed by the Secretary of State who witnessed the agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda. So what we are talking to them about is the Black Folks Plan for Agenda 2063. So there is 3 Black Folks Plan. There's the Black Folks Plan for the USA, which is the original Black Folks Plan in my book, The Black Folks Plan. Then there's the Black Folks Plan for Agenda 2063, okay, which Agenda 2063, in case y'all don't know, it's in my book, and in terms of the 2063 and the update, and in terms of 2063 in the second session, okay, of the 5-10 year, we're in the second 10-year section. of Agenda 2063. And people are admiring Torre in his government and standing up to the West. As what people don't understand, as he's standing up to the West, he's becoming closer to Russia and China, and he's also losing the battle on 40% of his country. Yes, there's videos that went out that show him doing roads and others, but the key is that he's in the midst of a civil war with jihadists that so far militarily he's holding his own or losing. Okay, so in the question that we have as a military American veteran yesterday on our conference calls is one of the things that the Trump administration is willing to let us as American military veterans do is to stand up a professional military corporation. And we are planning to do so out of Cincinnati, out of the National Association of Black Veterans chapter number 68, the Cincinnati Black Brigade. Now, in this, the African Union has a peace infrastructure. And so, in terms of this, what we're taking it is out of the United Nations. Again, taking the work of the United Nations and the SDGs, combining it with the African Union's their plan for unification 2063 and implementing it under the Black Folks Plan for Agenda 2063 as a partnership that the United States government in 2 days from now is going to outline the terms, and the terms that you're going to hear is trade, not aid. The policy of the United States, again, this is based on the policy that in 2018, in December 2018, that the Trump administration put forth a new Africa policy in 2018 that was based on this in 2019 that they put in place for the African Development Bank, which we are one of the founders, just like the African CDC, that we are a founding country, and that in 2020, before COVID hit, this was set up to go forward in the African Union. Now the new leadership.
Chairman, what a special
Yes.
privilege. I think Mayor Ford has another meeting, but before he leaves, I just wanted to make sure that before you send to all the affiliates, please send us an outline in terms of the agenda and how it's going to be structured to make sure that we are, we know what to expect and that we are also integral part of that committee. The second recommendation, instead of having it either in New York or in Los Angeles, know that we want to engage the ambassador in DC and the ambassador of Burundi that came to Atlanta has made a commitment to become our representative to all the ambassadors, promote the work of mayor, as well as the ambassador of Chad, which is a very powerful lady that is very influential. I met with them personally, and they all agreed to support us. Let's try to re-engage the ambassador, which did play a critical part in the work of mayor. Thank you.
Always remember, we started with the ambassadors, and strategically, there was a reason for that, because we wanted the ambassadors who are responsible for formulating global policy. We wanted them to know that the World Conference of Mayors is not in competition with them. Rather, we are here to help execute global policy in the cities and the towns. So we've got a couple ambassadors who have stepped up to the plate, have said that they're willing to carry the water for us, to represent us, and to make sure that we have cooperation between the ambassador, the diplomatic corps, and the World Conference of Mayors. We're the United Nations of cities, but we rely upon those ambassadors for setting global policy. So Washington, I'd prefer seeing it there because it just makes more sense if we could just cut, it's nice to meet in these other places, but there's nothing like Washington, D.C., okay?
So just for your information, I have
Yeah.
met with the ambassador of Chad. We have had direct communications and
Good.
meetings with her,
Good.
and we have had direct communications with the current ambassador from the African Union, okay, at the 124th National Black Business Conference last year. And we're following up. We waited until the new
Okay.
regimentation of the African Union Commission that happened in March. And on March
Okay.
15th, they gave us the legal framework that this all operates in from the leaders of Africa. So far, we have 10 leaders of Africa next month. Angola, the Gabon,
Okay.
Lesotho, Algeria, Botswana, Equatorial Guinea, Ghana, Zambia, and the vice president of Tanzania, as well as the signature authority from the president of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So yes, sir, we're following
All right.
your lead. That the implementation of that plan that decades ago that I always talk about, that you sat in and that at the table and I sat along the wall. We're in that time of actually getting
Okay.
it done.
Point of
Now,
So look forward.
Mayor Jackson always has his meeting on Thursday. What time are you proposing this meeting on?
They're calling it at 10 o'clock
10 Central Eastern
Eastern.
Time, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Mayor Jackson, you were at 11, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
he's
My
at noon.
meeting is always at 11.
At noon. So yeah, that's good time. Okay. No conflict. All right, let's stop. We want to stop talking about all of this. It sounds good. Now it's time for some action. I see Queen Mother Blakely. Time to cut the check, right?
Yes, it's time to cut the check. And Chairman Daniels know how Queen Mother think about that. Also, protocol. And if it's protocol dealing with the citizens of the United States taking the lead, you have to be in Washington, D.C., not at the United Nations. It's at Washington, D.C., at the embassy, control that those ambassadors are appointed to serve in the United States only. So it's appropriate to have it in Washington, D.C., in the seat of power, and we can lobby in the seat of power.
We are together. Okay.
So
right.
we are together. I'll follow up with a written report, Mr. Director General. I see two questions. First, from Florida. Okay, Judy, the floor is yours, and Dr. Crossland.
Yes, greetings, Chairman, and greetings to everyone present. It's my pleasure to be present here at this historic time. I'm Jehuti Sehutep. I'm the Business Development Director for Healing Through the Sound of Music. We featured the multi-award-winning production of the Fannie Lou Hamer story, written and performed by Mzuri Moyo Mbaye, who performed for the 10th year commemoration of 9/11 at the United Nations. Before
and let me say, at the 40th anniversary of the World Conference of Mayors.
So what's your question, sir? Good to see you again.
Yes,
get straight to the point.
Yes, indeed. So I want to address two things. First, of course, about the cutting of the check, but also too about the program for Juneteenth, because we've been asked to be present. But Hershel, we're wanting to know if you have at least a working program.
Yeah, we as we speak. Okay, our representative's up on Capitol Hill. I spoke to him this morning, and I'll follow up with that. The White House has already approved the Juneteenth observance at the eclipse at the White House, where the national tree and the Easter egg hunt. And so the background will be, okay, the actual White House. And they gave us our location because the president will be having his parade on the 14th. We thought that they had offered us the National Mall, but that would have been completely different than what we have the infrastructure set up for. And so they agreed to move us closer to the White House. So that's agreed. That's set. Okay. Now, I'll talk to you about the integration of your organization in that event offline.
Okay, very well. You'd like to give me an indication when you'd like to do that? Just text me.
It will be late today because, again, what we're pushing for is a new congressional membership organization, and we now have re-sponsoring a senator and 2 congressmen who are willing to be the sponsor for that around the permanent forum on people of African descent. And so I'm dealing with all that this afternoon and getting, as the Secretary General, Director General said, getting it in writing so that by Thursday. And so I'm having legal take a look at it. So it'll be late, 8 or 9 o'clock tonight.
Okay, very well. Thank you.
Dr. Crossland.
Chairman Daniels, thank you for answering my question so that I can understand. I've read your book several times in the Black Folks Plan, and I've often heard you say a seat at the table, a seat at the table. Now I really can envision it and know what that means and what that looks like. So in your documents, where does it state that you want to be a decision-making party in the Black Folks Plan so that they can't come back and say something like a budget issue? Because you, just like Mayor Ford was saying, with the ambassador, Chairman Daniels, you, Mother Blakely, need to be at that table making decisions right alongside of whoever the president appoints to implement the Black Folks Plan so that we're not just having meetings. So where in the document does it specifically ask for a position for this group to help make those decisions going forward? Thank you.
So on page 4 in the Black Folks Plan, okay, that we said that we would come out of the office of the vice president, okay, and so that we did in terms of that there was a meeting at the National League of Cities with the vice president earlier this year, and he said submit to him our plan of action, and he's in charge of the Senate. And in terms of that going forward, we feel comfortable in our submission, which will go forward as Federal Acquisition Regulations 15.6 as an unsolicited proposal. And so in that, we are creating under statutory law, based in, like I told you, the Community Benefit Agreement and the Community Reinvestment Act, that we are doing that, and we're saying to the administration, this is a marketing, okay, issue. This is not a DEI issue. This is not an issue that is not in line with administration policy, but rather it's making Americans stronger, safer, and wealthier, while at the same time we are implementing the 7 pillars of social justice for our brothers and sisters under our 7 pillars, but we're doing it under the legal framework in 1930 that the United States Senate approved to stop African slavery and for the benefits of the people of the signature of the Treaty of 1885. And so the proof of funds, the proof of this is the signature of the Secretary of State on April 25th in the Declaration of Principles. That's the basis for this. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any additional questions before we call this?
Yeah, one
Raise your hand. Go
question.
ahead.
I have my hand. This is Michael Harris,
All right.
and the importance of the World Conference of Mayors joining in collaborative partnership with the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation. It can't be understated. And Hershel will tell you we pushed hard, but the reason why we pushed hard is 7 generations of matrilineal.
And let me tell people, Michael's on the board of the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation. Okay, yes, I outed you. Okay,
Well,
all right, okay.
What's more important is the fact that, well, I was there in Alabama for the 60th anniversary of Bloody Sunday and other things, but it was just a midnight walk down Dexter Avenue, hanging out with the statue of Rosa Parks, looking at the fountain, the spring water where the slave auction blocks were, and walking down the street, seeing the work Fred Gray did down at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church and down where the capital of the Confederacy is. So I'm saying all that to say that now we're connected with the World Conference of Mayors, the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation, and taking this same energy from all around the world with the work that's been done and work that's happening right now. And so I just
Tuskegee, yes.
in Tuskegee. And if you're still there, I can't see the screen right now, but the work that the World Conference of Mayors has done in California, we have to come back and through the work, I'll apologize. Everybody that knows me know that sometimes I get a little cantankerous is the word that I'm using now. But the work is being done because of the spiritual blessings of the mothers. My mother, she's 82. She's like, we're going to a meeting tonight because I bought this 50 some odd acres on top of this mountain, and y'all need to do this. All these unbroken line of Black women warriors coming through my blood. When it starts boiling, and not much I can do. But the work is being done, and thank you all for when you go into the eclipse in DC and remember the work that was done because of Fannie Lou Hamer. How will I say it? Made Doc Myers act right, and then so now it's a national holiday.
Here's the importance, people. It's a statutory national holiday of equal statutory law as July 4th.
Point of information, Queen Mother.
Queen Mother, floor is yours.
Thank you. I just want to add one other leg. When President Joe Biden was able to put forth as the President of the United States, Juneteenth, a group of us, Mayor Frank Jackson, a part of that, we brought forth in Goree Island International from the United Nations Juneteenth. And I just want that to be in the record. The World Conference of Mayors was on the shores of Goree Island on that day.
Yes.
And I thank you.
Yes,
and again, that's why now, as an international program of action, and I put in the chat the State Department release of April 25th in the Declaration of the Statement, okay, that the United States has signed, okay, and again, that the participants acknowledge each participant's sovereign right to govern and administrate its own territory in a manner that does not infringe on the other participant's sovereign territory, but that the economic integration framework, all right, says specifically that the participants commit to launch and/or expand cooperation on shared priorities such as hydropower development, national park management, de-risking mineral supply chains, and transparent, formalized, and licit end-to-end mineral value chain from mine to processed metal that link both the countries in partnership with the U.S. government and U.S. investors. So we, the people, are the U.S. investors. So under the Prosperous Coalition, through Tuskegee, through the Tuskegee International Trade Center, that we are working to, and we are committed to that. As a matter of fact, we'll be sending to the second district council member those documents today. All right, that talking about how from Tuskegee as ground zero, this all happens. Okay, and so these are not my document that I put in there. This is Declaration of Principles overseen by the Secretary of State. And like I said, 2 days from now, you will hear from the head of the Bureau on Africa, their support, okay, for this work. Okay, and so in terms of this, we have a unique opportunity. I want to make it clear to y'all that unlike before in 2021 under Biden, this time Friends of the African Union is going forward with those who want to go forward and those who want to object because, oh, it's my God, it's Trump. Okay, look what he's doing. We looked what he's doing. The lie that at the beginning of the year that he canceled Black History Month, that didn't happen. Okay, the issue that we have now is that brothers and sisters in Africa, over 600 million of them, have no electricity. Under Biden, we were able to have a meeting in Tanzania in January to put electricity forward for 300 million of them. You know who took advantage of all that? China. So if we don't show up, Africa ain't going to wait. All right. So if we don't show up,
they should not wait.
And so, but we can show up now. We can show up now. And in terms of, you know, we're not delaying to anybody in America. All right. And so we look forward to working with you all and information. I see somebody's hand up. Hold on a second. Rod Bradshaw, your hand, go.
Chairman, for clarity purposes, does everyone familiar with the Prosperous Coalition?
No, why don't you tell them about it? Not, everybody is not familiar with the Prosperous Coalition. Okay, and so go ahead. All right, so Rod Bradshaw is one of the leaders that in the Prosperous Coalition, along with myself. And in terms of the Prosperous Coalition, formalized its move forward last year. Okay, and in that, what we have, and as I sent to everybody, okay, is talking about how the global African community and coming together. Okay, and so in that, what we're doing from Tuskegee is we're setting up a knowledge technology transfer framework that's designed to use agriculture, innovation, and economic growth as the basis through a collective effort in the city of Tuskegee and Tuskegee University as part of a global logistics infrastructure starting with Ghana. was our original African nation that we started with. And so at its core, what it does is it's a global extension of the land grant system that leverages higher education and research and municipal governance. That's why Tuskegee, at a core, we had a meeting during the World Conference of Mayors training session, and that we agreed to this, that we had a fly-in from founding organizations, okay, and that we agreed that strategic partners, that the node would be Tuskegee as the central node, that would function as the implementation node through the resources through a revenue anticipation node linked to grant-based initiatives, Tuskegee University, and the whole idea of creating with Ghana, with regions that tribes and kingdoms in Ghana have agreed to this. Okay, so this isn't something that we're trying to get. The African side has agreed. The asset manager has agreed. And so the whole idea of putting in place in a comprehensive program for the rebuild of the vision of Johnny Ford, who saved Tuskegee, is underway in terms of this knowledge and tech transfer that's led by the Prosperous Coalition, where FAU is subordinating its Black Folks Plan domestically under the Prosperous Coalition as we make the Black Folks Plan local to Tuskegee and for the creation of jobs and local businesses. And so what we've agreed to do is primary businesses around agriculture and around technology and around international trade to locate in Tuskegee. As a matter of fact, it's been suggested to me that I need to locate to Tuskegee, okay, from Ohio. But the whole idea is to make Tuskegee a center point for agriculture first, okay, through the new leadership at Tuskegee University, okay, and the Africans have agreed. Now, since that time from Ghana, we have additional countries on this that we're talking about in the Democratic Republic of the Congo in the signature for East Africa and West Africa, because the DRC is in both regions. And so what we're doing is building on the work that you were part of last year in New York City in the signature from the DRC. Does that answer your question? And that gave people some background.
Yeah, that's it. That's good.
All right. Additional questions?
Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, good morning, all members. Happy to be meeting tonight, even if I was late, but I am glad to be here.
All right, so we're talking Kenyan now. Okay, so Benson, we're talking Kenyan. Go ahead.
Okay, and I'm Benson Nyakagete, the Secretary General of the National Community Ambassadors, and the member of the World Conference of Mayor and representative of Kenya and East African region. Fine, now, as we know, really, Americans, you have the obligation to help your brothers and sisters in the Africa diaspora. And in terms of all our foregoing, as you are putting it across now, the U.S. government, how preparedness are we ahead of Africa, as we know about now that issue of agriculture is Tuskegee. Really, there is this food security and all that, and we may be also well equipped to see whether we can beat now this June through the agricultural framework. So, Chairman, how far are we in terms of Kenya and Africa?
So let me say, as I mentioned, the list of the 10 nations that have signed in with corporate America. Okay, again, corporate America, we have not shown up. Okay, from this meeting, like I said, this is an organizational meeting. Then 2 days from now, the U.S. government is going to be publicly pushing the Leaders Summit, and then that's where we show up. Okay, on Friday, as the Director General said that put it in writing. Okay, and so then on Friday, the World Conference of Mayors will get the document, and Friday the report. But so far, Kenya has not signed in. As I said, our focus is on the DRC to lead everybody, but Angola, Gabon, Lesotho, Algeria, Botswana, Equatorial Guinea, Ghana, Zambia, and Tanzania are the ones that have established corporate relationships that are confirmed.
And in terms of Kenya now, what does it take now for us to have also signed now as others which have not yet been done? Maybe what are the reasons on what
So
hindering
what
us?
it takes is now that we had a meeting with the underwriter on last Friday, okay, for Kenya. All right. And so I feel comfortable based on that tomorrow I can give you a proposal that, like what we have from the Prosperous Coalition with Ghana for and under the authority of the framework that's been put together with the DRC for Kenya. Now, in that, okay, we say always, as we always say in a country, is the organization of the mayors, the villages, and the townships, as said by the Secretary General, to create the United Nations of mayors, secretary of villages and townships. So that will be one aspect of that going. So you and the young moms, okay, and the other representatives from Kenya would be impaneled to create that as the assembly for Kenya, and can say to the government, say to the Kenyan government, this is a proposal.
And
Okay.
as for us, we are all set because already every village elder has submitted his committees to the principal secretary, or to the chiefs, to the deputy commissioner, up to the PS. So already we are set and be able now for any framework to present the proposal, because already that's organization as we are. It's already even we are also not targeting the governors, and so that we
All
can
right,
bring now all the.
What I will do, Benson, is that I will put that on a priority to get it to you tomorrow, and we will set an exclusive Kenyan call time, exclusive to Kenya only. All right,
It will be
so all right, so we'll make that happen. Like we have an exclusive Canada call that we held yesterday with Alistair Coward, who's here. And I see your hand, John Moss. Okay, but I wanted to get from Alistair while we have him here, because it's a busy day in Canada because of the King's speech and work that's going. And I would have Alistair speak, then John speak. Alistair.
Oh, Canada.
Alistair, if you want the floor, you can have it. Otherwise, I'll pass it to John.
You're muted, Alistair.
And so we're going to go to John, but I want everybody to understand that one of the bases that we are doing our work on is understanding that the word race is an artificial construct of the 15th century that is carried forward through the 20th century. And that in the 21st century, that here in America, that we're going through a specific period of work that has said that all Americans are equal stature at the race in the 21st century, as far as since January 20th, 2025. So that's with the understanding that since 1776, July 4th, 1776, till January 20th, 2025, what has happened, okay, and has now you're at the same starting line with people who have from 1776 till 2025 had the advantages of not being enslaved, of not being murdered en masse, of not being made second-class citizens by law, okay, have not experienced apartheid. So we understand that. We understand that's the administrative executive viewpoint. We can operate in that. Our proposition is that we can operate in that to the success under the rules that have been set down and the laws that are in force statutory right now, because we are members of the National Community Reinvestment Coalition, which has created in America's banks over $589 billion worth of community benefit agreements under the Community Reinvestment Act. And the problem with those agreements is been the leadership in our community for it. And this year, this time, and at this period, no more. And that we can provide that leadership that is needed.
Amen.
We're about to find out if that's true or not. All right, John, you had your hand up.
Yes, sir.
Alistair,
You
okay.
touched on it briefly. Just please clarify that on all of this, where and how the Indigenous Peoples Plan with our First Nations people, with Alistair and Samoa, etc., and other islands tie in with what we alongside have been proposing.
It's BIPOCA, okay? It is an agreement that Black folk with Indigenous people have a plan. So we have two plans. We have Black folks plan, as I mentioned to you earlier, in three forms in the global African community of 1.6 billion people, one to serve the continent's 1.3 billion, one to serve the 55 million of us here in the USA, and one for the global African diaspora, which we number 300 million minus the 55 million here, and that the biggest of that is in Brazil. And that in that $4 trillion plan, that $1 trillion of it, okay, would be going to CARICOM. Out of CARICOM, $4 billion a year over 75 years would be going to Haiti, but that $1 trillion would go to Brazil for the biggest, okay, country of people of African descent in the diaspora, and especially to address issues in Brazil. But that leaves an additional $2 trillion, and that is focused out of the OAS, and we're recommending that in the G20 that's picked up by the United States on December 1st, that they add the OAS, and in that we're pushing on the 15th of June out of Canada. So that's our push with Canada and the 1.5 million people of African descent in Canada through our meetings on Monday, that we're pushing that initiative to be backed up, because Canada has an African policy. And for the first time, Canada is represented by the King, that's speaking today to make it clear to America that this is our Commonwealth partner, descendant colony. You broke away, they didn't. And that my representative who greeted me was not only the prime minister, But my direct representative in Canada is a first person. For the first time, the representative of the king is an Indigenous person in Canada.
Woohoo!
And so within the context of where we're moving with the Indigenous Peoples Plan and that in terms of the funding, where the president can use quantitative easing authority, he has 8 trillion in quantitative easing authority that he doesn't have to ask Congress for. Okay. And so, what he has to have is the cooperation of the Federal Reserve System, and understand the Federal Reserve System is a privately owned system. And so in our solution of 1,000 units in the United States Compact for Democracy with a Just Economy, that each unit is a commitment of $1 billion a year for 75 years. And understand that the PNC agreement, by example, is a 4-year agreement, 2022 to 2025, of 88 billion, of 3% is only left. And whereas we're saying to them on their new agreement is that their commitment is 300 billion over 75 years, or 4 billion a year. Okay, it's actually over a 4-year period, just spending 16 billion, okay, versus the 88 billion that they currently have. But so if you take a country like the DRC, oh no, let's take a country like Kenya. And so Kenya, in that, from their revenue in putting a deal together, one of the things that they, like other African countries, will have to do is to meet the $89 billion a year in debt service to the EU, to Japan, Russia, the United States. That's how much each year the African nations pay in debt service. And so that's why under this plan, on 75 years times 400 billion a year, puts in $30 trillion on a continent that may have assets of worth over 300 trillion. In other words, 10% the value of this. And if you want to know how we came up with this and this work, you just go to friendsoftheafricanunion.com, go to Bureau, FAU bureaus, go to Zimbabwe, and you'll see Zim assets. See, we did this before. We just could not overcome the politics of the president's wife. But we had the parliament of Zimbabwe pass Zim assets, and they valued those assets at $3 trillion. And we were working to get them a $30 billion financing package. But we, in 2019, when I was to meet with the president of Zimbabwe at the United Nations session, what turned out that it was a funny situation. Okay, I met with the finance ministry and their representatives, and I gave them some information that they didn't know about, and there were some changes. Okay, and we got a new ambassador from the African Union. Okay, but let me say that the BIPOC Alliance, one of the kickoffs is in Canada because of the First People. Okay, like I said, the Commonwealth King representative in Canada is an Indigenous person, first time ever in the history. Okay.
United Nations also doing the Indigenous People Forum, representing also the Holy Father, the Pope, in Rome as well.
And one of the key things that I want y'all to know is we're about to find out what this Pope, who is now declared that he is a citizen of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And,
all right.
And Peru.
All right. Yeah. But he made of Rome under Francis in 2019 signed a document on human fraternity and world peace.
Mhm.
And so that is now part of the United Nations put in by the UAE and Egypt in 2020. And since then, February 4th each year has been that. And it's key because it's a framework for peace between Christianity and Islam. And so we embedded it in the 7 pillars of social justice as the framework for peace on the African continent and between the people of Africa and Islam, which has had this war since the 711 AD when Islam took the Roman Empire, in the West and took the Iberian Peninsula using as shock troops their African slaves. Okay, and so the coverage of that. We focus on the transatlantic slave trade, so where we are at in 21st century is that we can cut a deal, and that we tried this under Biden, it failed. Okay, now Trump is a different story. Now, if we can overcome certain elements that come out of the John Birch Society that are feeling empowered these days, that we could do it, as a BIPOC alliance. And one of the first things to make that happen is that Americans have to know their history. They got to know how we got here. Ain't the picture book of Thomas Jefferson, and as they think of Thomas Jefferson. They have to understand the Emancipation Proclamation was a war tool. We have to understand it, because if the Southern states in rebellion would have taken Lincoln at his word, they could have rejoined the Union and kept their slaves, because the Union had 4 slave states in it. Okay. And so that's why it was important in that discussion in 1866 that Queen Mother is the bridge, between her and John Moss in terms of going back to Oklahoma, and in terms of the Trails of Tears that comes all the way back to Alabama, and where that went, that people don't talk about that Trail of Tears. They talk about the Indians who died on the way. Well, guess who carried all those goods? The members of the tribes that were enslaved.
Yeah.
All right. We don't talk about that. But that's the uniqueness of America in that progress, because no other nation has survived all this. All right. And so it's up to us, the people, to make sure. This is my proposition from FAU. It's purely an FAU. There's not a world conference, new future, cash. The proposition is that we can lead for the next 75 years only with the African Union and the OAS, and treating them as good as we get treated. And that we have the ability to rewrite the financial system to do it, and while doing it, that we get paid. That we have a unique time to, like you, Queen Mother, studied and learned from the man who created African socialism. Now you're in the creation since 2015 of African capitalism.
Yeah, Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, first president. And just to add to that, as I'm listening to you talk, I think that even with the number, $3 trillion is a spiritual number that Queen Mother begging at the Trail of Tears in Tulsa, Oklahoma, on that trail, the $3 trillion. And that's what we have thrown around at the United Nations at the high level of member states and their session beyond the people of African descent. I think that we also need to include strongly civil society is a new language we brought into the UN a few years ago. Beyond NGOs, inclusion of civil society.
Yeah. So here's where the language is that it's $6 trillion for us in the U.S. based on the Black Folks Plan as published in the book. Okay. All right. 4 trillion for the global African diaspora, 30 trillion for the Black Folks Plan for Agenda 2063. But out of that, there's also 35. It was also included 35 trillion for world issues such as the 7 pillars of social justice, but also for CSW to write a new CSW plan, 2.5 trillion for that, and just like for the Indigenous Peoples Plan. I'll send you the updated. We submitted this on October 7th, 2024 to the 35th Working Group of Experts on People of African Descent on their request. That was the end day for submissions for the 35th session that was going to happen in November. And so because we submitted it, that included a 2-state solution that was based on the Korean Peninsula, example of creating a demilitarized zone and paying for it, and paying for the creation of the Palestinian state and the repatriation of the settlers from Israel, to say that they can go either back to Israel or they can go wherever they wanted to go. They just couldn't stay in Palestine because they would no longer have the IDF to come rescue them. That day, the Human Rights Council all of a sudden canceled the submission date and the date in November, and they put a new submission date in for recommendations in November, and held the meeting in December, and they still rejected it. And so I'm based on what has happened. Here's what people need to understand. There's over 1 trillion barrels of gas, natural gas, off of Gaza. We've known it since 2020. Okay. You got to understand what this war is about. Okay. And the issues and et cetera. So it's interesting. Now, remember when you heard Trump talk about remaking Gaza as a resort and et cetera, he's a real estate developer. He understands that off the coast of Gaza is 1 trillion barrels of natural gas. All right. British.
And that's true. And
Yeah.
we need to think that way. But at the same time, Chairman Daniels, we can't do it all in one moment. You need to have some classes to bring our people up to speed of understanding finance for development, and for them to understand everything we're looking for lies in the belly of Mother Africa.
Again, we agree, but I'm no longer doing that. I'm just doing it. Before we spent a decade from 2015 to 2025 to get Africa to put it into legal framework. They did it March 15th. I ain't waiting for anybody else to get it through, whether it be the ex-ambassador who's telling her lies. Okay. She made her millions. Okay. But as I tell anybody, ask her for the audit of the African Union Embassy. Okay. While she was building up her cult of personality, ask for the audit. Okay. Because Americans, us, American citizens, the Treaty of Berlin, it ain't France, it's American law since 1930. And I didn't understand, and I kept quiet for nearly, since 2014, when I understood that people didn't understand American law around that. But no more. 2025, after 7 heart attacks and 10 heart surgeries, there's a reason why I'm here.
I know.
Okay. All right. And the reason why we got together,
yes,
because, and there's a reason for those who want the reason, come together. And if you have questions on what I'm talking about, ask.
Yeah.
Okay. But, you know, I'm going behind the paywall next week.
Yes.
Okay.
And cut the check. And Queen Mother want to be in Oval Office when Trump cut that check, and a real check. We want to go to right to the treasurer, wherever you call it, or whatever name we may call it, and change it. I know a little bit about Wall Street now and how it works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you see, you were at the establishment of Occupy Wall Street. I was, FAU comes out of Occupy Cincinnati. And see, in Occupy Cincinnati, we created a trust. We went and got a lawyer. We went to court, and we got the right of first to speak. And then we couldn't move into the politics because of the anarchists. Okay, the anarchists destroyed Occupy Wall Street just like they destroyed the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay, because they want to tear it down. They want to tear it down, but they don't have anything to build it up.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we have what we have, and I look forward to working with all of you who want to work with us. Okay. With that being said, it's 2 o'clock. We've been at it 2 hours. I want to thank you all. Okay, Doc Jones, I appreciate you being here. I think I covered what, in terms of teaching tools for tolerance basis, that in the 15th century, race was made as an artificial construct that is in the world of geopolitics in the United States. They're saying that we're all equal now. Okay, well, that's fine. As an equal American, we got a plan for a solution, and that it includes the new world order that is in financing for development. Thank you all. I appreciate the time. This Zoom is at an end till next. Save this link. Pass this link on your networks. It'll be next Tuesday at noon. Thank you all.
Cut the check. Yeah. That's all I'm waiting for. The plan of action, moving with the young people. I thank you.